Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you all something real quick. We live in a time where folks love to say men don't catch feelings or men don't get emotionally attached. No, that ain't true. That's a myth, a fairy tale, a flat-out lie from folks who don't know how men are wired on the inside. Because let me tell you this right now, men do get emotionally attached. But only if 7 things happen, only if these 7 keys unlock his heart. You ready? Let's go. Number 1. A man only gets emotionally attached when he feels safe being vulnerable. Now hold up, don't skip past that. I said vulnerable. That don't mean weak. That don't mean soft. That means he can sit across from you and admit, yeah, I'm scared sometimes. Yeah, I was hurt before. Yeah, I need help. If a man feels like he can take his armor off around you and you ain't gonna use it against him later, you've just opened a door that very few ever get to walk through. Real talk. Number 2, he gets attached when he sees you as his peace. Now I know we all love the thrill, the excitement, the wildness. But men, we crave peace like air. When life's beating us up, bills stacking, pressure mounting, and we come home to a woman who's calm, nurturing, uplifting. One that don't add to the chaos, but helps quiet the storm. That right there, they'll make a man emotionally addicted to you. You become his reset button, his sanctuary. Number 3, a man gets emotionally attached when he feels respected, not feared, not controlled, respected. See, a man will walk through fire for a woman who honors his effort, even if he's not perfect. When he knows you see the good in him even when the world only sees his flaws. When he ain't going nowhere. Respect to a man is like water to a plant. Without it, he dies inside. With it, he thrives. Number 4. He gets attached when you support his vision, even when it ain't fully built yet. You know what makes a man attach himself to a woman with everything in him? When she believes in his dream while it's still on the ground floor. When she claps for the blueprint, not just the skyscraper. Men don't forget that. We remember who was cheering when nobody else clapped. A woman who sticks through the struggle becomes part of the story when the success arrives. Loyalty like that hits different. Number 5. He gets emotionally attached when you don't try to change who he is, but you inspire who he could be. That's a bar right there. There's a difference between correcting a man and guiding a man. See, when you nag him constantly, he shuts down, but when you uplift him, you become his motivator. His reason. He'll look at himself in the mirror and say, I gotta be better for her. Not because you forced him, but because you inspired him. That kind of attachment ain't surface level. It's soul deep. Number 6. He gets attached when he experiences consistency. Now listen, don't confuse that with perfection. Ain't nobody asking you to be a robot. But when a man sees you show up the same way every day, loving, loyal, solid, he stops waiting for the shoe to drop. You know how many men been let down, lied to, or led on. When he finally meets someone who means what she says and says what she means, that consistency becomes comfort, and that comfort becomes emotional glue. And number 7, he gets emotionally attached when he feels chosen, not just needed. Listen to me. Every man wants to feel like you could have had anybody. But you picked him, that he's not just a provider, not just a helper, not just a solution to your problems, but that you see him, value him, desire him, not for what he can do, but for who he is. When a man feels chosen by you, he stops running, he roots himself. Deep. Let me say this before I get out of your way. A man's emotional attachment is not about fancy words. It's not about games, not about tricks. It's about connection. A soul deep, heart real, foundation shaking connection. And if you can unlock these 7 things, you won't just have his attention, you'll have his heart. Because when a man truly gets emotionally attached, he loves you with everything he's got. When a man gets emotionally attached, it often starts with a feeling he rarely talks about. Safety. And not the kind of safety that keeps him from physical harm. No, we're talking about emotional safety. The kind of safety that allows him to remove the mask he wears all day, every day. See, men walk through this world constantly being told to be strong, to be tough, to not cry, to not break down. So when he finally meets someone who gives him space to be soft, who lets him talk about what's really going on behind that tough face, something shifts inside him. He may not even understand it at first. He might get quiet. He might pull back a little, not because he's not interested, because he's wondering, can I trust this? Can I trust her? Because the last time he opened up, it cost him. The last time he let someone see his fears, his doubts, his broken pieces, they used it against him. They judged him. They told him to man up. So now he's guarded. Now he's wearing armor, not because he wants to, but because he feels like he has to. But if you give him a space where his emotions aren't dismissed, where his pain isn't minimized, where his honesty isn't twisted into weakness, you unlock something powerful in him. You give him permission to breathe, to relax, to exhale. And that feeling, that's rare for a man. That's not something he stumbles across every day. When a man knows he can speak without being attacked, when he knows he can cry without being laughed at, when he knows he can struggle without being shamed, he starts to attach in a way that's real, not surface level, not lust, not just physical, emotional. Because now he's not just showing up as a role, he's showing up as a person. And that person has depth, that person has history, that person has trauma, that person has dreams. And when he sees that you're not scared of any of it, that you're willing to sit with him in that emotional space, he begins to see you differently. You're not just someone he dates. You're someone he trusts. And trust is everything to a man, because if he can trust you with his truth, he starts to let you in. He'll talk about things he's never told anyone. He'll revisit wounds he buried a long time ago. He'll look you in the eye and show pieces of himself that he didn't think were worthy of love. And he won't say it out loud, but inside he's thinking, she gets me, she sees me. And that feeling becomes a foundation, it becomes a bond. He starts to connect you with comfort, with safety, with honesty. And once a man ties your presence to his emotional safety, that's when he starts getting emotionally attached. That's when he stops running. Because now it's not just about attraction or attention, it's about home. When a man connects emotionally to a woman, one of the deepest roots of that attachment is the feeling of peace she brings into his life. See, most men live in a world full of noise, pressure, responsibility, and silent battles. He might not always talk about it, but he carries weight on his shoulders every single day. Expectations from his job, his family, society, and even himself, they build up. And while the world demands performance, strength, and solutions from him, he craves something that nobody talks about. He craves peace. Not the kind you get from being alone, but the kind that comes from someone who understands how to calm his spirit. A woman who doesn't meet his stress with more stress. Who doesn't take his silence personally. Who doesn't turn every disagreement into a war zone. That's the kind of woman that stays on his mind long after the conversation ends. When he feels that your presence quiets the noise in his head instead of adding to it, that's when something begins to grow. Because for a man, peace is power. It gives him clarity. It gives him strength. It gives him a place to return to when the world's chaos tries to break him down. He might not say it directly, but he feels it deeply. He starts to associate you with a certain kind of stillness, a safe emotional environment. The way you talk to him, the way you listen without trying to fix everything, the way you're able to be soft when he feels hardened by life, that balance becomes priceless to him. You're not forcing him to open up, you're not demanding he share every thought, but you're making it easy for him to relax his guard. That's rare for a man. So many people talk at him, expect things from him, or only listen to respond. But you just let him be. That makes you different. That makes you stand out. It's in the way you know when to speak and when to stay silent. It's in the way you don't criticize every flaw, but instead give him the space to correct his own mistakes. It's in the way you celebrate his wins, but more importantly, how you stand beside him in his moments of uncertainty. That kind of peace is healing. It's like medicine to a man who's been fighting silent battles all his life. And once he feels it, he doesn't forget it. He starts looking forward to being around you, not because you're flashy or loud, but because you give him a moment to breathe. He knows he doesn't have to perform, pretend, or compete when he's with you. He feels emotionally lighter, mentally clearer, spiritually stronger, and that connection goes deeper than attraction. It forms emotional roots. It makes him want to protect you, invest in you, grow with you. Because now you're not just a person, you're peace. And for a man who's constantly surrounded by storms, that kind of peace becomes irreplaceable. Respect is oxygen to a man's emotional attachment. He may not always voice it, but deep down it's what fuels his connection to a woman. Men are naturally built to want to lead, to provide, to protect, but none of those things matter to him if he feels disrespected in the process. Respect is not about worship or ego, stroking. It's about recognizing his efforts even when they fall short. It's in how you speak to him, how you respond to him, how you challenge him without tearing him down. When a man feels respected, his soul settles. He feels like he's being seen for what he brings to the table, not just judged for what he lacks. A lot of men walk through life constantly criticized, compared, and made to feel like they're never enough. So when a woman shows up who uplifts without condescending, who corrects without humiliating, who supports without sarcasm, it hits different. It builds something powerful in his heart. He starts to open up, to invest, to give more. He doesn't even think about it. He just does it. Because that respect gives him room to breathe. It's not about agreeing with everything he does. It's about disagreeing with dignity. A respectful woman knows how to speak her truth in a way that still honors his humanity. She doesn't call him names, she doesn't throw his past in his face, she doesn't emasculate him during arguments. She knows that her tone can either be his trigger or his peace. And when she chooses peace, even in disagreement, she earns something rare, his admiration. That admiration creates emotional attachment, because when a man admires a woman, he doesn't want to lose her. He begins to see her as his anchor. He starts to view her not just as a partner, but as someone he deeply values. Someone who builds him up in private and brags about him in public. Someone who doesn't mock his flaws but reminds him of his growth. Respect to a man is more than just kind words, it's action. It's not interrupting him when he's speaking. It's letting him lead sometimes without making him feel like you could have done it better. It's listening to his ideas without instantly shutting them down. It's giving him space to think, space to plan, space to be imperfect. And when a man finds that in a woman, he starts planning around her. He starts making decisions with her in mind. Because now she's not just someone he's dating, she's someone he's proud to be with. That pride translates into deeper effort. He wants to protect the space that gives him respect. He wants to nurture the woman who sees him as a man, not just a provider. That emotional bond grows stronger every time he feels like he's enough in her eyes. Not because of what he gives, but because of who he is. And when he finds that kind of respect, the kind that doesn't waver with mood swings or hard days, he attaches on a level that most people never even get to witness. One of the most powerful ways a man forms emotional attachment is when a woman supports his vision, not just the version of him that already has it all together. See, men are often in a constant state of becoming. They have dreams, goals, plans that haven't yet come to life. And many times, the world only claps when the results show up. But when a woman chooses to clap for the blueprint, to believe in the foundation before the building stands tall, that hits different. It creates a connection that isn't based on what he can provide today, but who he's working to become. A man remembers the woman who believed in him when there wasn't much to show, when he was still struggling, still figuring it out, still failing forward. That kind of loyalty is rare, and it creates a bond that isn't surface level. It's rooted in appreciation, in trust, in emotional memory. He'll think about how you encouraged him when he was doubting himself, how you reminded him of his worth when nobody else saw it, how you didn't look down on him when things were tight, when the plan didn't work, when the results didn't match the vision. That kind of support doesn't just motivate him, it inspires him to protect that connection at all costs. Because now it's not just about achieving the dream for himself. It becomes about doing it with you in mind. A man who feels supported emotionally is more focused, more driven, and more committed. Not because you pressured him, but because you positioned yourself beside him in the journey. You didn't nag, you nurtured. You didn't rush him, you reminded him. And that memory stays with him even after the success arrives. He might be standing on top of everything he prayed for one day, but he won't forget who prayed with him in the beginning. Who sat with him in silence when he was discouraged? Who asked him how he was doing when nobody else cared? That becomes his emotional reference point. That becomes the woman he never wants to lose. Because in a world full of opportunists, he found someone who saw him as a man, not a paycheck. Someone who valued his character, not just his accomplishments. When you support a man's vision early, you don't just help build his dream, you build his trust. And that trust is the foundation for his emotional attachment. Now he's not just chasing success for himself, he's chasing it for both of you. Because you weren't just there for the finish line. You were there when he couldn't even see the road. And that type of emotional investment, that creates a connection that's built to last. It's no longer about potential income, status, or lifestyle. It's about loyalty, presence, and belief. A man emotionally attaches to the woman who saw greatness in him before the world caught on, the one who made him feel like he was already enough while still pushing him to be more. There's a huge difference between trying to change a man and inspiring him to grow. A man gets emotionally attached not when he feels forced to become someone he's not, but when he feels seen, accepted, and gently elevated toward who he could become. See, most men walk into relationships with walls up. They've been judged before, criticized, molded, or told who they should be. So when a woman shows up who doesn't come in with a hammer to break him down, but instead holds up a mirror to remind him of his potential, that creates a shift in his heart. He starts to feel safe, but not just safe. He starts to feel motivated, inspired, encouraged. You're not trying to rewrite him. You're drawing out the best in him. And that right there makes him emotionally invest in ways even he doesn't fully understand. He starts making better choices, thinking ahead, growing not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he wants to be better for you. He wants to rise into the version of himself that you already believe exists. And that belief, That's powerful. Because many men don't hear that enough. They hear what they're not doing, what they need to fix, how they need to change. But when you flip that and say, I see something great in you, he listens differently. Your voice starts to echo in his mind even when you're not around. You become his inner push, his private encouragement, his emotional motivation. You didn't nag him, you nurtured the greatness in him. You didn't scold him, you spoke life into him. And because of that, he doesn't feel judged, he feels honored. That makes him want to show up for you more consistently. He starts to feel like you're not just a partner, you're a teammate. A woman who doesn't just point out the dirt, but who sees the gold buried underneath it. He knows he's not perfect. He knows he's got work to do. But when you make him feel like he's worth the effort, when you walk with him through the process, when you celebrate the small wins, and not just the final destination, it binds him to you emotionally. Now he doesn't see you as someone who's trying to control him. He sees you as someone who believes in him. That changes everything, because belief is one of the most powerful forces in a man's emotional world. A man who feels believed in is a man who will move mountains. Not just for himself, but for the person who saw his potential when others walked away. And when that person is you, he attaches in a way that's deep, lasting, and real. He starts protecting that bond, prioritizing it, feeding it. Because you didn't try to make him someone new, you reminded him of who he already was deep down. You sparked a fire in him he forgot he had. And that spark becomes the light that guides him right back to you, again and again. Consistency is one of the most underrated forces in building emotional attachment, especially for a man who has been through disappointment, betrayal, or confusion in past relationships. When a man sees consistency, he begins to relax. Not because everything is perfect, but because he can finally stop guessing. He can stop overthinking your words, your energy, your intentions. See, inconsistency breeds anxiety in a man's mind. It makes him question where he stands, whether he can trust what he feels, or if what's good today will turn cold tomorrow. But when you show up the same way over time, with your tone, your support, your presence, it creates a steady rhythm in his heart. It builds a sense of trust that no big gesture can replace. A lot of people think you have to impress a man with looks or status or drama, but the truth is, consistency outlasts all of that. When you treat him with the same respect on your best days and your worst, when your affection doesn't disappear every time you're upset, when your communication stays grounded even when you're frustrated, it builds an emotional track record in his mind. He starts to see that you're reliable, that you're not just a highlight reel, but someone he can count on in real-life moments. That kind of security builds emotional roots. He may not say it, but he notices when your love doesn't fluctuate based on mood swings or outside stress. He pays attention to how you speak to him when you're mad. He remembers whether you show up when life gets hard. That steady presence becomes more than comfort. It becomes connection. Because to a man, love isn't just about big moments. It's about the small, repeated patterns that say, I'm here, and I'm still the same person I was yesterday. That doesn't mean perfection. It means showing up with the same energy that attracted him in the first place. It's not about being cheerful all the time. It's about being honest, stable, and emotionally responsible. When you're consistent, he feels like he can open up without fear, that the love he gives today will be used against him tomorrow. He starts to attach not just to your words, but to your patterns. And those patterns become the rhythm of trust. Emotional safety grows in repetition. The way you respond to his thoughts, the way you stay soft when you could go hard, the way you don't switch up every time something changes around you. These things don't scream for attention, but they speak loudly to a man's spirit. They tell him, this woman is solid, and solid matters more than exciting. It matters more than unpredictable. Because once a man ties your presence to stability, to reliability, to a love that doesn't require walking on eggshells, he starts investing emotionally without even realizing it. He starts showing up differently, not because he has to chase the love, but because he wants to match it. He wants to mirror what you've shown. Consistency is not loud, but it's powerful. It creates emotional peace in a world full of noise. It builds a foundation where deeper love can grow without fear.